Hello and welcome. It is another Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. You know how we do it. This is Certified Unscripted. I'm Vera Jones. I'm your host. I prefer hostess with the mostest, but we'll roll with host for right now. Got another special night for you, a little bit different. We've got some people running late. We've got the phone calls coming in. I'm going to make it. You know, as per usual, I'm sure Ruthie will be in her car somewhere. Ruthie Bolton, for those of you who are just joining us for the first time. Always amazes us where her dedication shows up for the show. Whether she's running through airports, she's on the side of the road in some country field milking a cow, I don't know, but she always figures out how to make it to the show with her mic banging and everything else. But she'll be joining us a little bit later. Also hoping that we'll hear from Theresa Weatherspoon, our panel of experts who bring you excellence in terms of the basketball knowledge that you seek. No one actually brings us more excellence in basketball knowledge than you all. So please, I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to all of the wonderful people that watch us on our various channels on Facebook, as well as YouTube. Remember, you can always go to certifiedunscripted.com to drop us a message, to catch up on old shows. We've had some fantastic guests, and we certainly aren't going to disappoint tonight. There's a lot going on. And I want to make sure that we get your questions as best as possible. So feel free to go ahead and pop those in. But I'll spit out some basketball, and then I got to give you my real talk. What's going on? I don't know if anybody, I kind of been pulling for the New York Liberty, hoping that they'll get it together. But Ionescu wasn't enough today. Connecticut blew them out 83-62. Later this evening, we've got Vegas is playing Atlanta. Ryan Howard is going to return to the lineup for the Dream as they take on Asia Wilson and the Aces. The Aces are looking to push their win streak to 4. Nia Coffey has a knee injury. Monique Billings and season leading scorer Ryan Howard had a shoulder injury. They all missed Sunday's game, but apparently they're all back in. All right. And what else is happening? And that game's, I think, at 10 tonight Eastern time. And then it's also Indiana Fevers taking on the LA Sparks. Both teams are really just looking to break their losing streak. So we'll take a look at that. Well, as we have started doing recently on every show, really just by the nature of it is what it is. Life happens. And we certainly have been talking about Brittany Griner and all things, all of our hearts that are going out in prayers to her and her family and everything that she's going through, being detained in Russia. But we have other things that happen. Sometimes it's not even to those that are in the limelight. Sometimes it's just us. And for whatever reason, I seem to be one of the favorite lately when it comes to drama behind the scenes. So I appreciate everybody's prayers for that. I will just go ahead and say tonight's guest is super, super special to me. I have known her. I started broadcasting in the Wnba in 1998. Yeah, it was the season right after the inaugural season, 97. So, and I spent time with both ESPN and the New York Liberty. So in doing that, I got a lot of opportunity to meet a lot of players, interview a lot of players, just about all of them, I think. I don't think there's very many that I don't know, especially from way back in the day. And one of them was a very, very special player that I just love to watch her smooth rhythm on the court. She was just a kind of a ball handling wizard. Nice smooth touch. Used to like watching her game a lot, but she became particularly special to me after a series of events. So some background for me: my mom was a colon cancer survivor. My father just passed away recently last year from prostate cancer. And now I have a brother that in the middle of the show just 4 weeks ago, when I kind of panicked and I ran away and I was like, what the heck is happening? I got an emergency. That was just to find out that I was getting the call that my brother, who recently just kind of came to live with me, that he has a diagnosis of cancer as well. So life happens and it's real. And yet and still we find this basketball thing as a way to get away from it all. So we are very appreciative for it. But some people had to not use basketball as a way to get away. They actually had to use basketball as a way to endure the process. In fact, I said some people, I only know of one, and she is our guest tonight. Her name is Edna Campbell. Now, nominated by the WNBA fans as most inspirational back in 2006. I'm sure she's going to share with you her story. But for those of you who already know Edna, she's well known for her greatest championship and legacy in the battle against breast cancer. In 2004, she was drafted in 99, 10th overall with Phoenix, then came on board with Seattle in the following year. And then she spent 4 years with Sacramento. And in the midst of, right in the middle of her term with Sacramento is when she received her breast cancer diagnosis. And she came back to the game, and it amazed everyone, absolutely amazed everyone, that her willpower, her strength, her commitment, her I won't give up, her willingness to just stand up and be an example of you can beat this thing. She continued to play in the WNBA despite her diagnosis. And so she's going to talk about that a little bit tonight and share with us a little bit about the WNBA of old and a lot more. So please welcome Edna Campbell. Yay! Thank you so much for showing up, Edna. It's awesome to see your beautiful face. Good to see you.
Same here, Vera. Thank you for having me on, and just giving me the opportunity, like I said, to connect with you, WNBA fans, and share my story.
Yeah. So Edna, I mean, I've written down a whole bunch of stuff that you got yourself involved in. Not only did you come back, and a lot of people know you around the league for just your valiant effort and your courage to come back and play with a breast cancer diagnosis. But you went on to become a nurse, high school basketball coach. You broadcast for San Antonio for a little bit. You kind of did it all. What are you doing now?
So right now I'm focusing on my program for breast cancer survivors, the Breast Health Recovery Program.
Okay.
What I realize is that a lot of us go through this diagnosis, but don't receive the time, attention needed for us to regain our health and to live the remainder of our lives with a high quality of life. And so some of the treatment and surgeries can leave people somewhat debilitated, lack of strength, lack of mobility, and things like that. So that's what I want to inspire. And as you mentioned, I was diagnosed in February, and by the grace of God, I was able to get back on the court that same year in August, right? So, I know that feeling of being challenged to do some of the things that you love to do and be restricted from those things because of a diagnosis. But I also understand digging deep and leveraging the love and support of your teammates, my community, the Sacramento Monarchs, the WNBA, my family, to be able to get myself back on the court and do some of the things that I love to do.
I was sitting here thinking one of the most ridiculous questions I probably could ask you is how hard was it? But paint the picture for us. How hard was that? Because we can only imagine, and some of us can't even imagine. Again, like I said, I've been through a cancer diagnosis now with every member of my immediate family. So I know it's not easy. Talk about how it was for you to go through that and still fight to play basketball.
I think one of the things that one of our survival skills as human beings, whenever we're faced with, I'm going to say, extreme adversity, Vera, one of the things that I believe we become adept at doing is really getting a laser focus and tuning things out, right? So, yes, it was difficult. But I will say there are episodic moments of that journey that I don't even remember. Wow. Because I honestly think I was shocked. I believe I was traumatized. I believe I was numb for a period of time, but that served me. That served me to be able to move through it with strength, right? And I think that if I focused on everything that I was going through, I mean, there's no telling how, I'm going to say, fractured, weakened, I mean, if I even would have been able to harness the strength to get myself to the point of getting back on the basketball court, right? Because it seemed like I was facing so much, right? That can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
when you blind yourself to it, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot easier to move through it. Right?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think I understand. Like I said, it would probably seem like almost a stupid question because it's like, I think everybody assumes automatically knows that that's got to be a very, very difficult thing to do. But, to actually hear somebody talk about it that has been through it does give us a little more clarity. Let's go back, Edna. Hoops
Yes.
Nation wants to go all the way back to the early days. How'd you get started growing up in Philly? Did you play against Dawn Staley? Who else did you roll with? Tell us how
So
you got started.
I was born in Philly,
Mm-hmm.
but I did not begin my basketball career in Philly. Um, no, I didn't play against Dawn, but
Mm-hmm.
I did play with Dawn with USA Basketball later on in my basketball life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I got started playing basketball it was happenstance. It
Mm-hmm.
was it was being a tomboy, being out with my friends, wanting to
Yeah.
play basketball, football, baseball, anything that was athletic, I did it. And so, a lot of my friends played basketball, so I was always on the basketball court with them, right? And so that's really my basketball career started in 8th grade. I was a late starter,
Mm-hmm.
and I just excelled.
Mm-hmm.
After my 9th grade year, I went to Blue Star basketball camp. Actually,
Uh-huh. Kathy Rush?
it was Blue Star.
It
It
was
was
Blue
Blue
Star.
Star
Okay.
at the time. Mike
Okay.
Flynn. This is
Mike Flynn.
vintage,
Okay.
right? We're taking it
Yeah.
back. And
Yeah.
so, and actually, let me correct that. That was after my 10th grade year in
Mm-hmm.
high school.
Okay.
I went to Blue Star, and on the heels of that summer, I came out top 5. Right?
Wow.
USA Today, top 5 basketball player, et cetera, et cetera. It's like I came out of nowhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's really what propelled my basketball career forward, is just getting that exposure, and it was all she wrote after that.
Well, I'm a Maryland girl. I grew up in Maryland, and you had your first stop at Maryland. LaShonda and a couple of other people over here in the chat. Netta also wants to know, you started your career at Maryland. Why'd you leave? How was Texas? What was that all about?
Okay, so that's a great question. 1986, the University of Texas won the national championship. Okay, so lots of rah rah rah. I took a visit to Maryland and to Texas.
Okay.
I was sold on the University of Texas, the burnt orange, the eyes of Texas, the Longhorn, the whole shebang, right? There's a lot of energy down there. And at the time, the football program was hype. I mean, there was a lot of energy at the University of Texas. It was very far away from my family. Now, let me go back and share another piece of my story. I had my son when I was 15 years old.
Oh, wow. Did not know that.
I had my son right before that, or right after that year at Blue Star.
Okay.
So, taking into consideration I was a young mother and where my
Yep.
son was going to be living, and that was going to be Philadelphia, Maryland was my first choice because of proximity to my family.
Right. Makes sense.
So that's how I ended up at Maryland. Great program. Chris Weller was there.
Yep.
I mean, I love that place.
Mm-hmm.
I love the University of Maryland as well. I had a great time there. I lived with the desire to be a Longhorn,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and knowing that Maryland was my second choice for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Then I got courageous enough to make that leap, and that's how I ended up in Texas.
How hard was that, going to Chris Weller to go, excuse me, I know I'm your best player, or at least one of them. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go over to Texas.
That was very hard.
I know it was.
Because I was there. Beth Hunt was there.
Yep.
Christy Winters was there.
Christy Winters Scott. Yep. One of my colleagues.
Vicky Bullitt was there.
Vicky Bullitt. Yep.
Deanna Tate.
Yep. Deanna Tate. Remember that whole crew.
Mm-hmm. So we had a very solid team. But you know, when your heart pulls you somewhere, you know, you jump, and that's what I did. And
Wow.
I
Wow.
became I
You
became a
you were
Longhorn.
courageous before you were courageous.
I'm telling you, that was one of the hardest decisions of my life. Yes.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Who'd you model your game after? Who'd you look up to?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I just know that when I started playing basketball, I played hard. I wanted to be the best player that I could be. I really can't say that I had a model, although I looked up to, you know, Cheryl Miller. I mean, Cheryl Miller was the iconic female
Yes,
basketball player at that time, right?
sure.
But I can't say that I modeled my game after Cheryl. It's just Edna went out and played hard, wanted to be the best player that she could be, and that's what I
Okay. Carmela wants to know about playing basketball in the Jones Cup in Taipei. You won. Did I say that right?
did. Yes, in
Taipei.
Taipei. Yep.
Yeah,
Hmm.
you won gold. What other
Hmm.
player? Who else was on the team?
Now that is taking it back. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is one of my first 1 or 2 years with USA Basketball. Okay,
Hmm.
and the Jones Cup Taiwan. So I'm going to say we had Tanya Edwards on that team.
Ooh,
We
love
had
her.
Jennifer Azzi. We had Nikita Lowry.
Mm.
We oh gosh, who else was on that team? I want to say, why do I want to say EC Hill was on that? I can't remember. That's about all I can remember
That's
at this point in
it.
time.
Stressing the
Man,
memory.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's taking it back.
Yeah, I told you we are fans, man. They
Wow.
know. They know.
Yes.
They know hoops. So
Wow.
tell us a little more about the whole breaking into the WNBA. And at this time, I do want to bring in our Rita Haywood. Rita, you there? There you are. I didn't
I'm here.
forget you, boss. I didn't forget you.
No, it's
Um,
okay.
yeah. Did you have a question before? Because I really wanted her to talk a little bit about her experience in the league and then kind of move into where she is now. But any other questions?
I don't think people realize, but I used to represent this young lady under Bruce Levy Associates. So that's
Hmm.
how we got our initial relationship started. And
Hmm.
just, getting through all the dips and dives of everything that goes on in the WNBA, it was always a pleasure having her as a client. So,
Hmm.
Edna's got a little piece of my heart. So
Yeah.
Thank
I'm
you,
just
Rita.
really
Thank
happy
you.
to see her again because it's been a minute,
Hmm.
but it's always been love every time we do catch up.
No doubt.
But
That's all.
I didn't really have any questions in relationship because I was kind of very much aware of everything she was going through. I
Yeah.
think that her I think that's Ruthie trying to call me. Her her overall situation, she showed a lot of grit, a lot of faith, and just really believed. Like she was determined to beat any and everything that came her way. So her attitude was very much reflective of how she played basketball on the court. She was determined. She knew where she wanted to go, what she was trying to do, if she was trying to turn someone or whatever the case might be. She applied it to her overall life and how she dealt with everything that came her way. So, I'm just honored to have her tonight and to catch up again. I really am. So
Right there.
it's
Same
a
here.
And
little
this this might serve as maybe even as a small snippet or episode of education in breast cancer awareness. This question: how did you know? Where were you when you found out? How did you even get the diagnosis in the first place?
So, you know that a lot of us in our off season from the WNBA, we went overseas. Okay. So I was in Italy.
Hmm.
I was in a small town called Rovereto. It's in the northern part of Italy, and I went over that first half of the season. Um, Tina Thompson was my teammate,
Hmm.
and we're we're battling at the end of the year, like to maintain our first place position and all this stuff. We go home after our Christmas break. We come back, and I can remember we're going up against one of our toughest competitors, and I'm guarding my girl who was their scorer, right? And I'm trying to get over a pick. And it's so crazy because I can remember this like this was yesterday. And as I step over this pick and try to get over, right, the picker elbows me. Like, I mean, she serves up a good one. And I mean, you know, things like that happen all the time. So you don't pay attention to it. You just play through it. You keep it moving. But I got into the locker room, and I tell this story exactly like this when I give my speeches. I'm sitting next to Tina, and I'm like, man, she got me good. Like, this is crazy. Like, I this lump, you right?
Wow.
And Tina's like, oh, we got something for her, Eve. You know, we got you. We right. And
Tina putting on her lipstick. Oh, we going? Oh, we good. We getting her.
And then, you know, I let my teammates know, and the ones that could speak broken English, and then, you know, it's we got your back, you know, basically. And then I'm like, man, this is crazy. Long story short, I get home and I'm in my flat that night, and I'm like, man, this is just crazy what I'm feeling here, you know. And I'm gonna be honest with you, like that night, it hit me in my gut. Something wasn't right. Like, it wasn't a normal lump, right?
Yeah.
So I decided to ice it. That's what we do. I ice it. I ice it.
Right. We ice everything in the
that is the cure all, right? And so
wow.
It doesn't change, the swelling doesn't go away. And so over the next day or two, I call our general manager. Now, because y'all are aware of the European stuff, you know, anytime somebody says they want to go home, they're up in arms, right? They're just thinking we're trying to bail. It cannot be anything legitimate. You know what I mean? And so here I am. Listen, I got elbowed. I want to go home, right? You can just imagine, like, that just didn't even sound legitimate, right? So my general manager pitches a fit. I mean, he's like cussing me out in Italian, and you know, I don't even understand everything he's saying, but I know it wasn't nice, right?
Right.
So I end up going home to Pittsburgh, and I get there and have to go see a gynecologist, because at that time you had to first see a gynecologist in order to get a prescription for a mammogram and this and that and the other, right?
Right.
So I went through the whole process of getting the orders that I needed, and I ended up being biopsied right on the spot, right? But they couldn't provide me with the results for 3 days. Okay. So, you know, I didn't get the appointment right away, so I was home for a little bit, less than a week, maybe 4 or 5 days. So I turned around and went right back before I had the results, okay? So I get back and I play, and I let my general manager know that, you know, I think everything's okay, but I'm pending some results. And, you know, 3 or 4 days later, I get the results. I'm sitting in my flat, telephone rings, it's my doctor, and he's letting me know, you know, it's malignant. And so I just remember sitting on my little sofa in my apartment, and like just not feeling like I was in reality, right? Like almost like you have those scenes in a movie where a room starts turning, like it just doesn't feel real, right?
Right.
That was my real life experience upon being diagnosed. And so that's what really got everything rolling. I had to pick up the phone and call the closest people to me. You know, I was fortunate. The strength really came from being able to plug into people who loved me, people who supported me, people who, you know, poured into me emotionally, spiritually, and you know, they really gave me that strength, because this is not something you do alone. So it definitely was a team effort. My family, my Sacramento Monarchs teammates, the Wnba. You know, again, this is not something that I believe anybody would want to go through without a team, without a support system. And I had a
Right.
tremendous support system. And let me just go ahead and extend that to our Sacramento Monarch fans. I mean, they were amazing, right? The outpouring was just, whew, tremendous.
Even before you had your WNBA family, you were with the explosion of the ABL. We have a question about how that was, and just how was that transition as well from the ABL to the WNBA?
Oh man, they digging deep.
They're knowledgeable, that's a fact.
Yeah, and these are emotionally charged questions, right? Because they that touches me.
Yeah.
The ABL was something special for me because of, I'm going to say, a lot of the players who decided to play the ABL, we were grassroots. We poured into that. Like, we were heart and soul, right? We took a leap of faith in joining a league that maybe didn't have the off the bat notoriety, right? ABL, who's that? What's that? When you look at WNBA, right? The core group of players that went into that ABL group. I mean, you look at that core group of players, right? I mean, we had talent. We had the pool of talent.
You think it was faster pace?
I believe that the ABL was very competitive when you have, it was a very concentrated market of athletes, right? The pool was small. And I believe that it was very competitive. And then when you expand that talent, right? So let's just go back and look at, okay, so on the heels of 1996, the number of players from the Olympic team that joined the ABL versus the WNBA, right? We had the majority of that 96 team in the ABL, right? And then we had, just pools and pools of, let's say, second tier basketball players in the ABL, right? I believe that the competition was those first couple of years it was legit.
Yeah.
I mean, come on now. But
Yep.
And so I believe that you had people who, like Rita said, they had heart, they had grit. They came out playing with their heart first, because it was like our league. You know what I'm saying? It was something that we had to go out grassroots. I mean, we were doing things like flyering, speaking at schools, this and that. Yeah, I mean, we were out in the community. We were selling, right? Door to door. ABL, y'all, ABL, right? And so you get emotionally involved and connected with that when you are that engaged with your fans and everything like that, right? And so yes, Medina Dixon did play in the ABL. She sure did.
Yeah. All right. Michelle Reed, former WNBA player, says that you are a strong sister and your journey is inspiring. You're a fighter and a baller. You know who else thinks you're a fighter and a baller?
Who's that?
Mighty Ruthie.
Mighty Ruthie.
My girl.
All right.
I know this.
Oh, yeah.
I know this, and I feel that love and support every day. Every time I look at her, I know Ruthie knows that and feels that. Yes.
Yes.
Hey, in spite, even though she called me church lady, even when we played that game, make me laugh. I was dancing. She was like, "Ooh, there go church lady dancing." I'm gonna tell on you.
I'm gonna tell y'all this. Okay, so what USA? That was the year. What year was that, Ruthie?
That was World Championship.
World Championship, USA basketball. Okay, so Ruthie, we're in the airport, and we had a long layover.
Yeah.
And we got bored. I don't know what was happening. All of a sudden, Ruthie starts doing pirouettes and singing. I believe I could fly.
Oh no!
I believe. I mean, and then breaks it off into gospel, right? So
no!
The transition, called the transition.
Okay. All right. So Ruthie's my teammate, my Sacramento Monarch teammate, my USA basketball teammate, and my sister. My sister. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Mighty Ruthie, what do you remember most about Edna when you played with her? And are there any special moments that you can recall from those days?
Man, she was just fierce competitor, and like I said, I used to love to do stuff to just make her laugh, because she had the most beautiful smile, and I always wanted to try to steal one of her dimples. I don't know how in the heck she got the dimples. So I would do crazy stuff to make her laugh, and she got this laugh that is hilarious. Like, but just really was just so quick, and just I'm talking about just a defense, and just really was just a fierce competitor. And then you know what, when she came back, I don't know if y'all talked about that already. The council come back when she stood. I could still see it now. Her waiting to go in the game, and the crowd was just roaring, just seeing her come back from such a really, just come out the spirit that she, even without saying anything, I think Eddie, you might have scored in that game, but even just showing up, like, was just really phenomenal. It was a testament of courageousness, and just a warrior. And so it was that, to me, that stands out. That was just like, man, she came back, and it was just a beautiful thing, and it really spoke volume for who she is as a person, and just a competitiveness. Like, she is just a competitor, and I loved how she played, and just really a great friend now.
You can. There's going to be a lot of accolades that come out over the years, but there will be very few, I think, that stands up to what you did, Edna, in terms of coming back. Cheryl Miller, was she your coach at Phoenix? If so, was she as intense as she looks?
Let me tell you something. Yes, so I was drafted to Phoenix on the heels of our ABL experience, and Phoenix was one of my favorite experiences ever, because at that time, Phoenix, that gym was electric. I mean, the fan support, the cheerleaders, and the icing on the cake was Cheryl's energy, right?
Oh yeah.
And I mean, Cheryl is charismatic, and she's energetic, and she's going to engage the fans. And that gym was Cheryl Miller's gym. You know what I'm saying? When Cheryl stood up, the fans stood up. And, she got the party started, and that's what it felt like in Phoenix. Like, it was just, every game was an event, right? But yes, no doubt about it. I mean, because Cheryl is intense. I mean, yes.
No, I was going to say, in practice, did she ever actually get on the floor and ball with y'all?
She did not. She didn't.
No, she just coached. Okay.
Oh yeah, but she got as close to that as she could, right? With her energy, and it was a pleasure to work with her and have that opportunity.
Yeah, that had to be because Cheryl was many a player's idol coming up. Yes. So to be able to work under her tutelage and her coaching and just kind of suck up that energy every day had to be pretty cool.
No doubt.
Theresa Edwards is another name that comes up a lot. In fact, we had Theresa on the show. Had she joined, in your opinion, the WNBA, do you think she would have snatched Cynthia Cooper's title?
Now that's a hard.
That's all right. They want you to answer it anyway.
Let me just say this. Theresa Edwards, there isn't a first step like it. Mm-hmm. I mean, that first step was vicious. I mean, and just to go back and remember the way Theresa played, I mean, to me, she's incomparable. You look at her size, you look at her basketball IQ, you look at her skill set. Like, I just think she's incomparable. And I think it would have been a toss up with her and Cynthia. I think Theresa is really, she's in a league all her own. And I'm not saying that just because I love her to death. I just think that she's an extraordinary athlete.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We have to sing happy birthday to her because today's her birthday.
Really?
Yes. I need to get on the phone.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, give her a call. It's her birthday today.
Yeah, Ruthie, you got to take that. If there's any singing involved, we're going to just go ahead and make the assist. Just hand that on.
I might harmonize with you, Ruthie. Just a little bit, just a tad bit.
Yeah.
So one of the things, Edna, on this show that every single guest must do, it has become a staple, and it's not an easy task.
Yeah.
They want to know your top 5 players. overall, or your top 5 players that you've played against, if it's too hard to go overall?
Man. Okay,
And
so
I'll be counting.
oh yeah, I might have to. All right, let me see. Man, this is tough.
Yeah,
All right,
everybody struggles
so
with it.
all right, I'm going to go with top 5, and this is going to be really based on, this is generational, right? Because
Okay.
yeah,
This
because
is overall. Okay.
yeah, I got you, but man, you know, you get the best view when you up front, and so I'm going to start with Tisha Pettichero at my point guard.
Wow.
I'm going to go with. Oh man, this is tough. You know what? I think I would put Theresa Edwards at the 2, even though she ran the point. I'd put Theresa Edwards at the 2.
Okay.
I'm going to put Mwati Mabika at the 3.
Wow, there's a name. She was a beast.
I'm going to put Mwati Mabika at the 3. Ooh, 4 and 5. Now that's. Okay, I got to put Lisa Leslie there. And my 4.
Yolanda.
Katrina.
I see.
Katrina.
Katrina is a name that came to mind because, like, you don't even hear that name, and that name is legit. I mean, to me, you can't talk about women's basketball and not mention Katrina McClain. I'm just but again, this is generational. People today don't even know who she is, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to throw Katrina in there.
Okay.
That's a nice lineup.
Man, that lineup
is a lineup and a different lineup.
Oh, but you know what? Oh, hold on. I left out Maya. I'm sorry, Maya Moore.
Maya Moore.
Oh yeah.
See, I think I might
I was
have
say,
to.
you don't have anybody stroking a 3 on your squad.
I think I might have to.
Who do you take out now?
I think I'm going.
Yeah, because you don't really have a bona fide 3-point shooter on that team. Not with Mwati Mabika at the 3. You might have to pull her out.
Yep.
Yeah, I gotta get Wadi out of there. I gotta get Wadi's out. Wadi's out because Maya brings.
Wadi on the bench by me.
Now, if I have to give my top 5 that I played with, right? Okay. So this would have to go down like with USA Basketball, ABL, everything. Right. Okay. Oh man, where do I start with point guards? Okay, I'm still sticking with Tisha. All right. I'm going with Crystal Robinson at the 3.
Oh, there's your 3-point shooter.
Okay.
Yep, I got Crystal Robinson at the 3. I'm going with Ruthie at the 2.
Okay.
Go
Ruthie.
I made it too.
You made it. You off the bench, Ruthie.
You legit.
Depend on me. I'm in the trenches for you. Okay.
She said you can depend on me. She's selling herself like it's really happening.
It is like this is a draft. I got Yolanda Griffith at the 4, and my center. You know what? Man, I'm going. You know what? Tari Phillips is one of my.
Tari, really? You're really down with New York squad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tari is tough though.
Tari is a beast.
Yeah, Tari was tough.
You want someone asked a question. Trisha asked a question. There was a question about Jennifer Gillum, so I don't want to forget that. But Trisha asked a question too about, and you almost kind of answered this, like, who would be your top 5 players that you think were overshadowed by marquee players? Because you named off some people like Tari Phillips, Mwati Mabika, names that you Tisha Pettichero, even though she's come up a little bit here and there, that you definitely have rattled off some names of some what would we call these? The overshadowed, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Tight players for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man. Top 5 question. Who will be on my bench? Oh gosh.
That's a nice one, right?
Ooh,
Who you
man.
bringing
Okay.
in?
All right. Okay. I'm going to bring in Clarissa Davis, right, Sue?
Woo! Wow.
Oh, beast. That's beast. I mean, that's a bazooka.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Right? Man, I've got Tanika Dixon, no doubt.
Oh yeah.
No doubt.
You got the little booty J. You gotta have
No
that.
doubt.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Okay, I can't right now. I mean, Skylar is balling.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
post players, man, these post players today, wow,
Uh-huh.
they all dunking. I mean,
Mhm.
I mean,
we
geez.
kind of talked about Sylvia Fowles just this
Yes,
past week.
yes,
Kind of
Sylvia.
hard to look past her. Yeah.
Nope, you can't pass her up. And I got one more. I need a 4 player. I mean, I think I'm gonna go ahead. I know Candice is usually on the perimeter, but you know what? She could play the 4
All
on
right.
the perimeter.
Okay. There you go. All right.
Yeah.
You'll stretch her.
Yeah.
We had some questions too about y'all. Here's a name from the past. Kendra Hollencorn.
Yes, my girl. That's you know what? Kedra is just a great teammate. Great teammate. Great
Yeah,
person.
Kedra. Because it was Kedra, not there was no N in it, right? Was it Kedra?
No,
Or is it Kendra?
No N. No N.
Yeah, no N. Kedra Hollencorn. Yeah, that's what I remember.
yes.
Yes, I
Great
remember,
teammate.
by the way, Netta. Good question.
Yeah.
Yes.
She has some basketball knowledge for sure.
Yeah.
We didn't
Here's
overlook
another-
Katrina.
Yeah.
We didn't overlook her.
Yeah, no, we didn't overlook her, but overall, why do you think Katrina McClain kind of does get overlooked?
It's like it's generational. We don't have social media. Nobody has the documentation to be able to go back and look at all the extraordinary things she did and to see how amazing, I mean, she is.
And she's very humble, even to this day. She really is just like, I'm living a new life.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
We had a question about Candice before we get there. Ruthie just disappeared, so I was trying to catch her before she went. What about Yo-Yo? Was she underrated?
I believe Yo was underrated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Yolanda did it. I mean, she rebounder, score. I mean, she ran the floor like nobody's business. I mean,
did.
Like, come on now. Like, I mean, she's long. She changed the game. I mean, you have her presence, it changes the game. It changes your strengths, right? Yeah, I believe that she was overrated, but it was a time when, you know, she was overrated by the league MVP, right? And league MVP runners up. I mean, you're looking at Lisa, you're looking at Tina, who was a 3-4, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, then you have Lauren Jackson come along that, you know,
That's
you
true.
had so many entities that were competing for that spotlight.
Yeah.
In that position.
Ruthie, the question was Yolanda Griffith, was she underrated? Or did you feel she was underrated?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, every day of the week. What she did, she was the defensive player of the year 1 year. She won a championship. She was a prolific competitor. She might have won the rebound title. I'm not sure, but she had what commercials did you see her in?
Right.
What ads you see her
Yeah.
in? So no, I definitely, without a doubt, I don't need to even stutter. I don't need to even pray about that one. But I know she was definitely underrated. Definitely didn't get the pub that she should have. So yeah, I definitely think that just, I don't know, got overshadowed, you know. And that was in spots. I'm like, Monarchs did a good job of it, but for us, the league, I think the league could have given her a little bit more love with, you know, with some, you know, I definitely believe that.
Yeah, I thought she was one of the greatest that I've seen, for real. Just pure athleticism. Man. Candice Parker, what about her impact on the game?
I would say I would take her at, you know what?
Oops. Go ahead. Okay. No, go ahead, Ruthie.
I think that Candice is a continuation of Pat's legacy, right? And her impact is broadened by that. because she carries that torch. She owns that, right? And not just to mention the fact that she's an amazing player and has been and will retire, you know, an accomplished WNBA college player. But she also, I mean, she epitomizes the professional athlete. She really does. I mean, she's hardworking. She does all the right things. You know what I mean? She does all the right things, and she has a great persona.
So one of the questions that we get a lot, I mean, there's in close running, instead of certified unscripted, this could easily be the Cheryl Miller, when is she coming on show, right? So we get a lot of comments about Cheryl Miller. But this is really good because it asks for some of the younger generation. Edna, can you actually paint a picture for people, someone that goes, well, I always hear about Cheryl Miller, you know, it's kind of like I always hear about Dr. J, but paint that picture for the young folks, because you have to deal with a lot of young ones.
Yes, and I think that it's really important for people to understand the value of passion, the value of fire on the basketball court, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And when you think about that, that's Cheryl Miller, right? She was the first female athlete to get on that court and play with that passion and that fire, and took her game to another level because of that energy, right? Like, I mean, and that was that's how she captivated her fans. It was her energy, right? So I think that that's the one thing that if you can just imagine who right now plays with that fire. I mean, she just has a different charisma.
I don't even know who that would be.
At this time, exactly. I think the last person I remember is Spoon.
Yeah, I was going to say Spoon.
On that level,
Theresa Weatherspoon.
That was just inspiring and just like fire. Like, oh my God.
Yep.
I know one that's, I mean, she doesn't compare, but another passionate player I think of, that's the name you don't hear very much, and she was annoying, was Debbie Black. You remember how Spoon and Debbie Black would go at it?
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy. One more question. Challenging matchup. Can you think of who was that most challenging matchup for you? Who made you play on the edge?
Tamika Dixon.
Okay.
That was a conference matchup. You know, and that was
Sparks? She was LA, right. LA Sparks, okay.
No doubt. It was that competition.
Is that you with a car horn going off? Or is that Ruthie stuck somewhere?
Oh gosh. That's hilarious.
Are you, because you said you're outside at a coffee shop somewhere. Before we go on, we were talking right before we came on, Edna, and you were talking about kind of on this same subject. You now work with elementary through high school girls basketball, and they are just like in another world when it comes to the history of women's basketball. How hard is that and how important is that to help them understand the opportunities that have been made and paid forward that they now have because of people they don't even know? How important is that?
So I'll start with this. I think it's incredibly important for them to understand that, because this is what gives them their confidence. Like, a lot of young girls do things because they see other girls doing it, right? Like that's their first segue into sports, is that they see other girls doing it.
Sure.
And if they don't see other girls doing it, they don't think it's something that they want to do. And they have to understand that other girls did this a long time ago, that this just didn't start happening, right?
Right.
And that it took those girls a long time ago to pave the way for the girls who are now doing it to be esteemed and, front and center, I'm going to say media wise, and to have the opportunities that they have. And I think that, as I look around, I was talking to Danielle Viglione and to Ruthie about this, but I feel like there's some dwindling in young girls participating in basketball, right? Like they're in, but they're not. They don't. It doesn't stick.
Mhm.
And so, I think them understanding that women play this sport and women can be successful at this sport. And but I think what's more important about it is that women can be esteemed and applauded for participating in sports, and particularly basketball.
Right.
This question just came up out of the blue. Ladies, a current WNBA question. Did you all see Diana Taurasi kick fouls in the crotch area and gave the Mystic player a concussion?
When?
Is
When
Diana dirty?
When did this
Dirty
happen?
Diana.
When did this happen, though?
I know, Ballers Page, give us more information. Give us more. No, I didn't see it, so it's hard to speak to it. I know Diana is tenacious, and that's putting it lightly. I know Diana is tenacious. I could never speak to whether she's dirty because I don't play on I've never played on a court with her.
Right.
I've followed her a very, very long time, and I know she is definitely tenacious.
Right.
This was a week ago. Erica says it was like a week ago she saw it. Wow, we missed it.
We missed that for sure.
But I'm going to put it out there because we're certified unscripted. Would you put her in the dirty category, Edna? Would you put her in the dirty category, Ruthie?
So I'm going to say that, there's a zone you get in when you're playing sports, right? I mean, did people think that Mike Tyson was dirty when he bit the man's ear off, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mike just thought he was going to lose, and he's like, I'm not going to lose without going down without a fight.
He was dirty. He was dirty.
Okay, so that's dirty. I'm going to say that if she kicked somebody in the crotch and it was intentional, that would be dirty.
So I'm gonna say this. I think
it's on YouTube.
I think Diana is just totally frustrated with her season. She's a winner. She hasn't been winning, and therefore, she's making like silly decisions, stupid fouls, and just kind of letting all her pissivity off. I think she's just super frustrated about her season, and she's like,
Right.
what the hell,
Xavier says she's Lupe Fiasco. Kick, push, punch. Oh boy. Wow. I did not see it. Thank you, Ballers Page. I'm going to YouTube. I would try to pull it up, except I can't sit here and search for it.
Right.
Happened at the All-Star game with DT kicking her leg out. Well, that was the All-Star game?
I didn't hear about that.
So I had to go back. But I think there's a fine line. And I hear you, Edna. I do. I hear you that you get into the zone in basketball and you're just going out. But I still think that there's a fine line. I think when you're, crossing that line in the midst of a game, the same way that you just wouldn't draw back and throw a haymaker, But if you're kicking somebody in the crotch, for what reason? If you're diving for a loose ball and you accidentally do it, that's one thing. But if you intentionally just like, nah, I'm doing it, then yeah.
I have an opinion. Okay, we were just in a conversation a couple months ago about her being the GOAT. Okay, so what are people talking about? What are you saying? She's a GOAT. So
oh my gosh. Okay.
She has a does she have a right? I think she's edgy. I think she's sort of she might be the Dennis Rodman of the game, I guess. But you would think about even the little stuff she does don't even compare to what the men do. And I know you don't compare. I know that's oranges and apples. But my thing is that she's edgy. That's what I make Taurasi. She does stuff that maybe nobody else does. I didn't see it. I don't know. You should never want to intentionally hurt somebody. But sometimes you can't get out. I know as a player, I've never intended to hurt anybody. I'll foul pretty hard, though. I'll make sure you ain't going to get no N1 on me. Hold up.
Yeah. I'm watching it now, and it kind of looks unintentional. It depends on what your thought process is. Because she's taking a shot, and she kind of kicks her leg out, and it just...
Taurasi's taking the shot?
Yeah, she's taking a shot and she's leaning back. Like they're
And she
even
kicks.
slowing it down in terms of how she went up with the shot. So I think it's I don't know, it's a close one.
Well, just joining us, none too late, none too soon. Please welcome the great Theresa Weatherspoon.
I'm in here on that conversation. No, it was uncalled for.
It was
Plain and
uncalled
simple.
for. Okay.
Uncalled for. Plain and
There it
simple.
All right.
Uncalled for. I was looking at it and I no, uncalled for. Yes,
Okay.
you know, we get edgy and all these things with a lot of things that's
she
going
did
on
push
in the
it
game
off.
of basketball, game of life. We get edgy. But some things is just uncalled for. And I believe that was uncalled for.
Yeah, they slowed it down so it shows that it was after the fact, and she did bring it up and like push it into her. So
Okay.
when
All
they
right.
slow down, you can see it.
I don't speak on what I haven't seen, but I certainly know. I think anybody that knows hoops enough knows that edgy is probably saying the least of it. So tenacious is what I'm going to say.
Right. Right.
Speaking of uncalled for, Aaliyah Boston was not invited to the ESPYs. She's a top player in the country. Dawn Staley apparently just recently went off. Our buddy Dawn went off on ESPN. Hoopballer Scoop wants to know, is it all racist in some ways? Because ESPN definitely loves UConn, and Beckers has been invited the last 2 years. The only part I will add to that is I don't think it's a secret anywhere, and I would dare people to say differently, that ESPN in Bristol, Connecticut loves Connecticut. Right? I'm not going to even pretend that I would think of it any other way. I can't speak on whether or not it's racist. I think it becomes a problem when you have a school like UConn, and they do continue to pick players who just happen to be white. I think it gives off that possible scenario or that suggestion. But you all say what?
I think it's the power that Gino Auriemma has in the state of Connecticut.
Yep.
You know, he's a very powerful person, whether it was having to do with issues with the Olympic team, the selection of players. I mean, he has been like that power player that has kind of ruffled a lot of people's feathers, you know. So, you know, we can say, all right, the Keeblers, well, anyway, you know, it could be a part of racism. Absolutely. But I just think Gino wields a lot of power in the state of Connecticut. And whether that was to piss Dawn out, you know, piss her off because they lost the championship.
Oh,
you know,
didn't think about that angle.
You got to think about it. Like, why wouldn't she be invited to the ESPYs? Why would she not be invited to the ESPYs?
Yeah.
Well, now you're really putting your personal feelings into a situation by, I'm sure, making calls or seeing what's going on. I think, yeah, it is a problem.
Yeah, and then Rita, you're punishing a kid. You're punishing a kid that has done great things, and you don't invite her. That's unfair. And once again, uncalled for. No, don't punish that child. She's done a hell of a job of putting her name out there, breaking records, just doing some incredible things. She deserves to be there. Get her there.
Yep. And I'm happy that Dawn doesn't have a problem speaking up.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to shy away. They don't want to ruffle feathers. Dawn is like, nah, it's wrong. I don't really give a hoot about what you think. It's wrong. Fair is fair. Right is right. And I mean, she's an advocate. She's gonna say what's right. So I love it.
Right. Hey, Ed, now you get a chance to say hey to.
I know. I
love
was
you,
trying
big
to get
dog.
that hell in. Love you too, baby.
I love you.
Yes.
Yes.
What are you didn't get a chance, Spoon, because you just joined us, but any thoughts on Edna overall? We've had a great history about her, but for anybody that's out there, all our folks on Facebook as well as YouTube, just kind of talk about the kind of player Edna was and what you know of her as a person.
Yeah, this is really good because I know I didn't get to hear everything, but it's really good that Edna gets a chance to share her story because she went through a heck of a lot to get back to where she was and the strength and the power. But the one thing I do know is one thing she never lost, and that was confidence in who she is and what she brought to the game, but the game of life and the way that she lived, you guys, she showed others you can too. No matter what the diagnosis is, you have to believe, you got to push, you got to fight through it all. And she did that. And when she came back, I was telling Rita this earlier. When she came back with a bang. It was a different Edna. It was a different push. It was a different fire behind her, because now it's a different look on life, a different outtake on life. She saw things differently. You know, whereas some people might take things a little bit for granted, but she had gone through so freaking much, and we were all behind her, pushing and fighting with her. But when she stepped back out on that floor, it was a different Edna. It was a different Edna, a different fight for other people to follow and know that whatever it is that you want to accomplish and whatever everyone else has said about you, you know, that it's not it until you say it's it. And she kept fighting and showing that I'm still here, I'm still alive and well. Survivor. Plain and simple, a survivor.
Yeah, I think that goes back to something you actually wrote on your own Twitter page, Edna, regarding just realizing what you have in you and coming back from the dark, but finding a different person, you know, finding a different person standing there now because you endured. So, I mean, that was really amazing. I love how you put it, which was straight to the point. You know?
Thank you, Spoon. You making me emotional. You know, that's not cool, Spoon.
Hey, but this is something I always wanted to ask you too. Yes. Always wanted to ask this, because shared this with Rita earlier. This is what I often see is people when they see you and they see that you lost your hair, and they start to stare and not understand what you're going through. And some people start to make fun of that. Did you ever go through anything like that? And if you did, what do you say to those who have gone through it, and how it made you feel and how you fought through that as well?
Let me tell you something. That was one of the lowest points in this whole journey. Not getting the diagnosis, not being infused with chemotherapy. It was getting out of the shower one day after washing my head and getting patches of hair coming out, right? And then knowing that now you look like you're going through something, right? You look like you're in the midst of the storm.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I can tell you, when that happened, I remember saying, we actually had a game the next day, and I was like, I'm not going to this game. I'm not going. I am not with this no hair looking like this, right?
Yeah.
It was by the grace of God. I had someone call me, and he said, "Hey, Edna, my daughter, her name is Dee. She's a part of my story." It's like, so she was a child cancer patient. It's like, she just got back from chemotherapy. You mind coming over, right? And I'm like, all stuff, you know. So here I am, you know, I pick up some cookies and some ice cream, and I go to his house, right? And Dee's sitting on the couch, and she's wrapped up in a blanket. She had just had her treatment, and Dee was a basketball fan.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm just talking to her, and we're talking about kids stuff, right? Just trying to lift her spirits, okay? Dee had already lost her hair, right? So I'm looking at this little kid. And so I had a baseball cap on, right?
Yeah.
A Monarchs cap on. And she's just sitting there. And, you know, I said to her dad, I said, you know, maybe tomorrow Dee can come to the game with me if she wants to, right? Mm-hmm. And Dee's like, she just sat up. She got all excited. She's ready to go to the game, right? And right then and there is when I made the decision to go to the game, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I have Dee in the car with me. We get, you know, the players' entrance. We're coming in through the tunnel and everything. And I had this hat on, but I was sitting in the car, and I didn't want to get out because I didn't want people looking at me, right? Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, like, and I got this kid next to me, and I'm like, oh, like I gotta go in here, right? And I'm like, so I just took off my hat, right? Yeah. And I know this sounds crazy as all get out, right? But this little kid, she was my source, right? Yeah. She gave me energy that day. Man, holding that little hand, I was gonna walk to the top of the mountain. Because she was flaunting a bald head, right? I'm like, yeah, you see me do this? Oh my God, I should be able to do this, y'all. I mean, And as I'm walking in, like just like right now, I'm like wiping tears, right? And I'm not looking at her, but I'm like, I got this. But it was people were like, hey, Edna, you know what I mean? Like they had to do that.
They had to make that adjustment. Yeah.
Hey, right? And I'm like, what's up? And I just kept it pushing, right? And I'm like, right? Then when I walk in the locker room, my whole team is like, and they just hug me. Ruthie, I don't know if you remember this game, but it was the first game that I came to with my bald head. And it was something else, y'all. I mean, yes, that was Spoon, one of the most difficult things, but it's amazing where we find strength, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing where we find strength. And we just have to be looking for it and tap into it, right? And it was this little kid that gave me that strength to then walk around. And then after that, y'all couldn't tell me nothing, man. It was on. It was on. Right? Man. Yes.
Man.
But you know,
wow.
One thing, I don't know if y'all can hear me good, but you know the thing about it though, when we go through our tragedy, you know, the pain, your pain can be someone else's power. And I know so many people was like, you know, that from a distance, I don't know if everybody got a chance to meet, but people that would tell me like, oh, Edna's such an inspiration for her to come back and play. We wish we had a chance. We wish we could talk to her. We wish we could. But people were truly inspired by your transformation.
Yeah.
And how you stood and how your bravery. And that would make it so amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you've been given something extraordinary. You know, something extraordinary happened to you.
Yeah.
But it was for a purpose much greater than you.
Yeah.
You know, for people to really understand the power of spirit, the power of, you know, inspiring, like that young girl inspired you. The fact that she was young, and I don't want to say young and dumb, but she had no fear. And as we get older, we allow fear to come into our thought process instead of being free and understanding that everything is already planned. We just have to step into the greatness of the moment.
Yeah.
And that's something that you actually did at that time. So, you know, you're just I don't think you even realize how amazing your story is to all of the people who were part of that time and are currently watching now and just fully getting an understanding of the difficulty of some of the things that you did. So,
and
you know,
Rita, I agree with you, and I think I have to relate this to, you know, being a professional athlete, right? We did what we did, right? Now you look back on it and you think, man, like I think, man, I can't even get through a warm up for the warm ups of practice we did back in the day, right? But when we think about the grueling things we did with our bodies back, we just did it. We just did it. We didn't even think about it because that's what was required of us. And by the grace of God, we had the talent to do those things, but we didn't think about it. We just did what we had to do, right? I almost feel like my journey is like that. I did what I had to do. I tapped into the people that inspired me, that gave me energy, that gave me life, right? And you know, with our teammates, you know, we align with those teammates that will grit and grind and cheer us on, right? And so it's a similar situation, right? You do what you got to do, and you're fortunate to be able to be around people who can lift you, who can encourage you, who can inspire you, who can pick you up when you fall down, right? Like that's what it's about. Like, you know, like right now, my teammates are those people that I know I can lean on when I need that second, third, fourth win, right? Like this is that I mean, I'm 53 years old. This is that second phase of life, right? Like, man, these teammates now, man, y'all got to know I'm going to need some rest breaks. I'm going, right? And that's real talk. That's real talk.
It's hard to even follow that up. Just the passion and energy that just came out of this segment. We had some miscellaneous questions, like how's Zion coming, Teaspoon? It just no disrespect, Dion, but it just feels so like it falls. So like, where do I even fit that in?
Yeah,
And
where did that go in this conversation?
I feel
Nowhere.
inspired and motivated, and it's like, who cares about Zion right now? Like, but you know,
want to go out and run.
I know. I'm like, man, I'm so lifted up.
Yes.
There was a question though, Rita, if you want to get in, anybody, before we let Edna have one last question or thought, anything you want to fill us in on?
I talked to Angel. Angel had to change her schedule because actually Venus was supposed to come on. Angel, Lynette, and everybody's schedule has shifted. You know, the thing that people don't realize is that we actually do book people ahead of time, but life happens. You know, phone calls happen, things happen. They have production, say, for documentaries, or they have camp. They didn't even know that they were going to do the camp, whatever the case might be. So it's kind of like, you know, you just got to tune in and see what the special night is going to be about, you know?
Yeah. Yep, we're unscripted. Thank you very much for that, Trisha. I see your comment. Dion, whose page Edna says this is one of the best shows, no disrespect to the other guests, and we have had like some phenomenal guests. Yes. But I think your story is so, man, I mean, I get a hangnail and I can't go back in, coach, right? You know what I mean? You come back and play, you know, in the WNBA, I mean, at the highest of the highest of the highest with breast cancer. And you return to the game that you love. You return to the game that gave you so much, and you gave so much back to it just by coming back. Yes. And I think that is a legacy. Again, no disrespect to any of the great players here or outside of our format. That's a legacy that I don't think anybody's going to be able to touch. I mean, you are amazing in what you've done to come back from that. Like I said, I'm speaking as the only person in my family that has not been diagnosed with cancer, right? And so I know what that is. I know that struggle, and I just tip my hat off to you. And I'm so thankful you came on to our show this evening.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been awesome just to connect with you all, just to see your face. I mean, this is history. Like these are relationships that go back God knows how long, right? So thank you for having me, giving me the opportunity to share my story, inspire people, and see y'all and love y'all. Man, this is a
love you too.
Group hug.
Love you too, Edna. Hey, we would always say Edna would always smile just so she could show her freaking dimples. That's why she would smile. That's why you were smiling, man. Just showing off your dimples. We love you. We love you. We appreciate your fight. Appreciate you.
We have to come out your way pretty soon. You know, Penny talking a lot of stuff. So.
Man, we need to go sit in a vineyard and do something, y'all.
There we go.
Oh my goodness, it would really get unscripted.
Oh my God, I can only imagine. Yeah. All right. Well, we love you, Edna, and we certainly love our certified unscripted fans. You guys are great every week, turning out again on all our channels on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Tune in next week. Rita will have something or someone. I will be on vacation. That means Penny has to return and rotate because she's getting cussed out over here in this. Penny is getting dogged over here in the sideline. So hopefully Penny Toller will return. Most importantly, fans, you make sure you return because we couldn't do it without you. When it comes to women's hoops, we're not new to this. We are true to this. We are certified unscripted. We'll see you next Tuesday. God bless.